Donald Trump is considering relinquishing its leadership of NATO after insisting that European allies take more responsibility for the security of the continent, the Mail can reveal. The U.S. has held its leadership position since the founding of the Defense Alliance in the aftermath of World War II. Since then, the Supreme Allied Commander Europe has always been a senior U.S. general. But in line with the U.S.'s insistence that European allies take more responsibility for Europe's security, it also expects a British or French general to take up this position. It comes after the U.S. president stunned Western allies by imposing a temporary pause in the supply of vital American military aid following a historic spat with Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office last week. President Trump warned on Monday night that he would not put up with the Ukrainian leader for much longer, as the relationship between the pair soured yet further after 2 weeks of back-and-forth comments. Hours later, the White House said assistance was being reviewed to ensure that it is contributing to a solution, triggering warnings that, without a U-turn, Ukraine's vital stockpile of U.S. weapons would be spent by the summer. But on Tuesday, Zelensky extended an olive branch to Trump after Prime Minister Keir Starmer warned him he had to rebuild relations to save his country. In a conciliatory intervention, after the White House announced a freeze on military aid to Kyiv, the Ukrainian president said he really valued America's support and was ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. He described last week's astonishing Oval Office bust-up with President Trump as regrettable, and he revealed that leaders are working on a peace deal that could begin with a truce in the sky and truce in the sea immediately, if Russia is willing to follow suit. Diplomatic sources said that Sir Keir and Emmanuel Macron were willing to travel to Washington with President Zelensky as early as next week to present a united front on the plan to Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump was angered by President Zelensky's warning at the weekend that a deal to end the war is still very, very far away. In a statement on X, Mr. Zelensky said he was ready to work fast to end the war and willing to sign an agreement, allowing American firms to exploit Ukrainian reserves of rare minerals at any time. Reports suggested Mr. Trump was preparing to announce the deal during a major speech to Congress that took place in the early hours of today. Some allies of the U.S. president have demanded an apology over the scenes in the Oval Office, where Mr. Zelensky was accused of being disrespectful for not wearing a suit and failing to be sufficiently grateful. President Zelensky stopped short of an apology, but said, "Our meeting in Washington, at the White House on Friday, did not go the way it was supposed to be. It is regrettable that it happened this way. It is time to make things right. We would like future cooperation and communication to be constructive." He also praised Mr. Trump for sending Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine in 2019, saying, "We are grateful for this." His statement came shortly after a phone call with Sir Keir, in which the PM warned him he had to rebuild relations with President Trump to have any hope of securing U.S. support for a lasting peace deal that would save his country from Vladimir Putin's forces. The PM last night welcomed the Ukrainian leader's steadfast commitment to securing peace. Mr. Zelensky said he was grateful for Sir Keir's advice and support during this challenging time. Mr. Trump's decision to suspend military aid blindsided Number 10. Hours earlier, the Prime Minister dismissed rumors of the move, telling MPs, "As I understand it, that is not their position." The two leaders are thought to have discussed the issue in an emergency call on Monday night, but the PM was unable to talk the president out of it. Downing Street was last night still scrambling to discover exactly how far the pause in military aid extends. Reports yesterday suggested that supplies of ammunition were no longer crossing the Polish border. And intelligence sharing was also pulled yesterday, the Mail learned. The decision to suspend aid is a major blow to Sir Keir's four-step plan for Ukraine, which begins with keeping military aid flowing into Ukraine while the war is ongoing. Mr. Trump has also hinted he could ease economic sanctions on Russia as part of plans to get Putin to the negotiating table. Government sources said efforts were being made at all levels to persuade the U.S. to restore supplies to Ukraine quickly. President Zelensky revealed fresh details of the new peace plan now being brokered with Sir Keir and President Macron. He said, "We are ready to work fast to end the war, and the first stages could be the release of prisoners and truce in the sky, ban on missiles, long-range drones, bombs on energy and other civilian infrastructure, and truce in the sea immediately, if Russia will do the same. Then we want to move very fast through all next stages and to work with the U.S. to agree a strong final deal." Diplomatic sources confirmed that a ceasefire could begin with an end to the aerial and naval bombardment by both sides. A source said that much of the damage was currently being carried out by airborne drones and missiles. If successful, the two sides would then move towards a ceasefire on land, which a source said would be harder to verify and easier to derail. President Macron had initially suggested a one-month pause in the fighting in the air and at sea, but the proposal is now expected to be open-ended. In return, Sir Keir hopes to persuade President Trump to guarantee a U.S. security backstop that would allow Britain, France, and other members of a developing coalition of the willing to send their own troops to keep the peace in Ukraine without fear of immediate attack by Russian forces. Sir Keir agreed this week it would be utter folly to send British forces into harm's way without American support. But President Trump has so far indicated he believes the presence of American citizens working on the minerals deal would be enough to deter further Russian attacks. Last week, he told Sir Keir he trusted Putin to keep his word.
We stand by Ukraine because it's the right thing to do. But we also stand by them because it's in our interest to do so.